In 1997, when I was hospitalized for the first time, both my husband and I supplied information about me. A year or two later, I paid to see and copy some of my medical notes at the hospital. What I found was very interesting. Throughout the process of information gathering, such as it was, it seems my utterances were inspected for symptoms of delusion, while those of my husband, now my ex-husband, were looked upon as if they were freshly cleaned window panes opening out onto the world outside. Where our accounts conflicted, my husband's accounts seemed to take precedence. Where our accounts concurred, this seems to have been entered in the records. Where I made statements that my husband had omitted, these appeared as delusions on my part. The consultant noted that I did very well to get through a degree course and train to be a teacher, a sentence that aptly described my ex-husband rather than I. I have an MA and began my professional life as a lecturer for the Open University. She noted that I thought I could speak Swedish, a matter not of thought but of fact. I spent all my summers in Sweden in childhood, and am fairly fluent in everyday conversation in that region from which my mother's family are rooted. She noted that I had a grandiose delusion that I was a poet. In fact, I write and have written poetry, off and on, all my life. Was an invited member of the Advanced Writers Group at Warwick University in 1996-7, the year in question, on the strength of it, and had had poetry published by 1997. Various other equally ludicrous conflations were made. One was that I had a delusion that I was a genius. At no time did I or have I ever made a serious claim to genius. I made a complicated statement to someone at the hospital to the effect that I had spent my life torn between the idea that I was a moron and the idea that I was a genius. In the end, I said, I'd realized I was neither, but that I was probably nearer to being a genius than to being a moron. For this to be cited as a delusion of grandeur is preposterous. And why does this matter in relation to hospital care? The husband I was estranged from was held up as the model of all I should want and want to be. My identity, my true identity, was offered to me as a system of psychotic beliefs I must shed in order to prove I was well. One of those delusions was that I didn't feel safe with my husband and didn't want to stay married to him. I was required to regard myself as lucky to have him. I was required to be a non-creative person with no multicultural background and no intellectual or other ambitions or pretensions. I was required to be grateful for a husband I didn't love, for a part-time school teaching job I didn't like, and for a lifestyle dominated by my husband's dour, penny-pinching and joyless shadow that I didn't enjoy. And to escape that prison at the hospital, so that I could return to my children, I adopted every requirement. Out of the fire, then, back into the frying pan.